The winning blueprint presents.
Draft Zone.
Welcome to the Draft Zone. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. This is the NFL Draft Game here with the Arizona Cardinals. And what the draft game does is focuses in on the first round selections of every team in the National Football League. And specifically, it takes into consideration all of the draft picks made by X said team, in this case, the Arizona Cardinals, from the years 2000 to the present. And it also takes into consideration the draft history of all of the number 7 picks in the draft from 2000 to the present, which is where the Arizona Cardinals will be selecting in the 2013 draft. So I'll be using this list that you see in front of you as a rubric. This has every single pick in the National Football League in the first round from years 2000 to 2012, which is what we'll be looking at. And so we'll be using a baseball grading scale for every player selected 7th overall and for the players selected by the Arizona Cardinals in that 13-year time frame. The baseball grading scale is a single, double, triple, home run, or the occasional strikeout if the player was an absolute dud. So without any further ado, let's get to every single player drafted at the number 7 pick, where the Cardinals will be selecting, from years 2000 to the present. We'll start with the year 2000. And up first is Thomas Jones. And what do you know? He was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals in the 2000 season. Really good pick by the Arizona Cardinals. He had a very good career, rushed for over 10,000 yards, quietly was a really good back, one of the strongest guys you'll ever see in the National Football League. He was a walking muscle. Thomas Jones, a really productive and good back in this league. Probably didn't play up to the potential that the Cardinals thought he was going to play at in Arizona, but he really excelled after leaving the Cardinals. It's a triple for Thomas Jones in 2000 at the number 7 pick. You look at 2001, Andre Carter, drafted by the San Francisco 49ers at defensive end. He's been really good in his career. He's had spotty play. He hasn't adapted well when teams have switched from a 4-3 to a 3-4 defense. But in a 4-3 defense, he's been a solid defensive end. Andre Carter is a double in this league. You look at Bryant McKinnie in 2002, selected by the Minnesota Vikings, a really good left tackle for many years, was really instrumental in the Ravens winning the Super Bowl this past season. The Ravens struggled offensively, especially toward the end of the season in 2012. Offensive line was in flux. Here comes Bryant McKinnie into the postseason. They insert him into left tackle, slide Michael Orr back over to the right side, and what do you know? The Ravens go on a magical run, keyed by that offensive line protecting Joe Flacco, allowing him to throw for 11 touchdowns, no interceptions, allowing for that running game to get off the ground with Ray Rice. Bryant McKinnie has been really good in this league. Hence, Bryant McKinnie is a triple over his career. You look at 2003, the number 7 selection, Jacksonville Jaguars picked Byron Leftwich. And coming out of Marshall, you just thought you were going to get more out of Byron Leftwich. We all remember the injured game where he completes a pass 40 yards down the field, but can't run down the field as time is ticking away. Offensive linemen have to carry him down the field as he tries to orchestrate a comeback. That's an indelible image of Byron Leftwich. But what's your indelible image of him in the National Football League? That was at Marshall. There is none because he hasn't had any. And that's the story of Byron Leftwich, which is why he is only a single. You look at 2004. 7th overall selection goes to the Detroit Lions, and it's spent on Roy Williams, the wide receiver out of Texas. Solid pick. Again, his career probably should have been better than what it was. In Detroit, he came in, he started fast, but it did not last. He went to Dallas, never was really what the Dallas Cowboys traded for. They gave up King's ransom for him. First and second round picks for Roy Williams. It never really worked in Dallas. He went to Chicago, and that was it. He had one season in Chicago, really didn't manifest itself into anything. It's a double for Roy Williams. Probably should have been more, but his career really didn't pan out the way many thought it would. You look at 2005. Troy Williamson, one of the biggest draft busts in history. Now, of course, he can't be the biggest because he wasn't a number 1 overall selection, but it doesn't get worse than Troy Williamson. It can't get much worse than Troy Williamson, especially at the wide receiver position. There have been some bad receivers over time in the NFL who just weren't good. Maybe Troy Williamson was overdrafted. Maybe he wasn't. Coming out of South Carolina, it all looked like it was supposed to work, but it didn't. And Troy Williamson was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was one of the worst receivers drafted in the last decade, easily. And you could argue Charles Rogers, Troy Williamson. You take your pick of the litter. Both of these guys were atrocious in the league. And both of these guys absolutely struck out in the National Football League. You look at 2006. Michael Huff, selected 7th overall by the Oakland Raiders out of Texas. He was drafted as a cornerback. Raiders moved him to safety. Probably the best for his career. Hasn't been anything special. But in Oakland, you could count on Michael Huff to lace him up every Sunday, give you all he's got. And look, the Raiders haven't been a really good team. And it hasn't been all on the shoulders of a guy like Michael Huff and some of these other first-round draft picks. Michael Huff did his job to the best of his abilities, and I think he's been a really good, really solid corner / safety for the Oakland Raiders. Hence, he's a double. You look at 2007. Wow. You look at this pick and you ask yourself, were there really 6 other players better than Adrian Peterson at number 7 to the Minnesota Vikings out of Oklahoma? The only one that you look at on this list and say, yeah, he could rival the career of Adrian Peterson is Calvin Johnson. Heavens to Megatron. But other than that, can you really look and say, man, these guys are better than Adrian Peterson? No way. But it doesn't matter. Adrian Peterson is a no-doubter. An absolute tape shot measure home run. Simple as that. You look at 2008. Cedric Ellis, defensive tackle drafted by the New Orleans Saints. He's supposed to be better than what he was. You draft a guy in the top 10, he's supposed to be better than a lot of your other players. And Cedric Ellis is just one of the guys. He's just another guy on that defensive line. And you can draft another guy on your defensive line in the 5th round, in the 7th round, in the 3rd round, but not at 7 in the top 10 of the draft. And Cedric Ellis has just been ordinary. He's a single in the National Football League. You look at 2009. Darius Hayward Bay. Funky. Now, I tell you what, I don't put it all on the shoulders of Darius Hayward Bay. 75% of the blame goes to the Raiders because he was overdrafted. Not only should he have not been a top 10 receiver, he shouldn't have been drafted in the 1st round. Raiders made a monumental mistake by giving this young man the pressure of being a top 10 pick. And so Yes, Darius Hayward-Bay deserves some of the blame because they made you that top 10 pick. Now it's your job to go out and prove them right. You did not. Darius Hayward-Bay is a single in this league. You look at 2010, Joe Hayden, Cleveland Browns select the cornerback out of Florida. And Joe Hayden has been extremely solid. Probably should be a triple at this point, but I think the suspension that he had kind of brought him back somewhat. It kind of tapered the momentum that he had going in his favor. And hence, I make him a double, but he's a really good corner that has the ability to potentially elevate himself to the upper echelon of the corners in the National Football League. I expect Joe Hayden to be a really good corner for a long time, but right now he is just a double. You look at 2011. Doesn't get much better than this at defensive end / outside linebacker. Aldon Smith, defensive end / outside linebacker out of Missouri, the San Francisco 49ers, hit a absolute home run with this one. This one was a no-doubter. As soon as it left the bat, you watched it fly. He got to put the bat down and trot around the bases. The man came into the league with 15 sacks. That was in limited duty. Okay? He did not start. He was a situational pass rusher, and he got you 15 sacks. He followed that up with an encore of 19 and a half in his sophomore season. If that isn't home run, I don't know what is. You look at 2012. Mark Barron, drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the safety out of Alabama. He was extremely solid in his rookie campaign. Nothing special, but then again, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass defense was nothing special. In fact, it was really bad. And so, Mark Barron needs help back there. He's going to get it in the form of newly signed safety Deshaun Golson. That should make a great pair back there. That will allow Mark Barron to probably be a more physically imposing safety, which is what he needs to be. And I think he's going to be a really good safety in this league. Mark Barron right now is a double after his rookie campaign. And that's going to do it for all of the picks at number 7 from years 2000 to the present. You average them up together, and it's a double. And so it's a really solid double. It has some really good players in the mix. Couple of duds, Troy Williamson, Darius Hayward-Bay, Cedric Ellis. But when it's all said and done, there's some really good players here. Thomas Jones, Adrian Peterson, Joe Hayden, Aldon Smith. I mean, Bryant McKinney, I could go on and on. Really good players here. So at 7, the Arizona Cardinals have to be encouraged by past history at 7. And now let's look at the Arizona Cardinals draft history itself from years 2000 to 2012 and see what they've been able to do in the draft and see how they might fare in 2013. So you look at 2000, and we talked about this already. Thomas Jones, solid player, really good NFL back. His career spanned over a decade, and he was very productive in those years. Thomas Jones, a triple in this league. You look at 2001, Leonard Davis was your first round selection, and a very high one. The number 2 overall draft pick in 2001. I don't think he was ever as good as the number 2 pick in the draft. He had some seasons where he was really good. He had a dominant season for the Cowboys, went to his first Pro Bowl, was an All-Pro, but don't think Leonard Davis lived up to the hype of being the number 2 pick. But again, he wasn't terrible. He wasn't great. Solid. And when you're solid, you're a double. So you look at 2002, Wendell Bryant. Yikes. The Cardinals missed the boat on this one. And you can never tell these things. Okay, I take that back. Sometimes you can't tell what you're getting into. And with Wendell Bryant, I don't know if the Cardinals could see what they were getting into. But this guy was a knucklehead off the field. He was an even worse player on it. Wendell Bryant was an absolute strikeout for the Arizona Cardinals in 2002. Look at 2003. Cardinals had 2 picks. They spent them on the wide receiver Bryant Johnson out of Penn State. He ended up being a single. Long career, never really did anything of note. And also Calvin Pace. Solid linebacker. I think he never really was as good as the Cardinals wanted him to be in Arizona. He went on and played some really good football for the New York Jets. Hence, he is a double. Calvin Pace, Bryant Johnson combined for a triple together, but apart, Johnson a single, Calvin Pace a double. You look at 2004. Larry Fitzgerald. Can you hit a bigger home run than this? Larry went up first pitch swinging. He was sitting dead red fastball. He got the offering. It was a fastball. He did not miss. That ball has still not landed because he hit it so hard. Larry Fitzgerald is as good as it gets in the National Football League at the receiver position. It's been a shame to this point in his career that he hasn't had a consistent quarterback to get him the football, but it does not change the fact that Larry Fitzgerald is probably the best in the game. And yes, I'm talking about a position that sees guys reside at it like Megatron and Andre Johnson, but I think for my money, Larry Fitzgerald is probably the purest receiver in the National Football League, and he is an absolute, no doubt about it, first ballot Hall of Famer and an absolute home run. You look at 2005, Antrell Roll, safety out of the U. Now, you drafted him to be a cornerback, but you realize very quickly he's got the body of a safety and he runs like a safety. And so you made the switch from corner to safety. I think that was a really good move by the Arizona Cardinals. Identifying a weakness and turning it into a strength. I think he's had a really solid career. Never really been the guy that you thought you were getting when you drafted him. Again, when you spend a top 10 pick on a player, you expect that player to be head and shoulders above a lot of the other players on your team. And I think at times he's just been a solid player. And so, hence, Antrell Roll has been a double in this league. You look at 2006, Mr. Hollywood himself, Matt Leinart. Does it get any more frustrating as an Arizona Cardinals fan? I mean, really, you spend a top 10 pick on a quarterback, you give him every opportunity to succeed. You even put him on the bench and allow him to sit behind a potential Hall of Fame quarterback, learn some more, even though it should have been his keys to the car already. Then you finally say, hey, we've taken you to driving school for the second time. This is a brand new Porsche. Please don't wreck it. You hand him the keys, and what does he go and do? He crashes into the first tree that he sees. Matt Leinart is an absolute strikeout in every sense of the word. Disappointing pick in 2006 for the Arizona Cardinals. 2007 saw the Cardinals draft Levi Brown. Double. Solid tackle. Has been everything you've wanted him to be. Hasn't exceeded that, but at the end of the day, I think Levi Brown has been really good for you. The injury that he had last year set you guys back light years. I mean, your offensive line was in shambles because of one man being injured, and that one man was Levi Brown. That showed his importance to your team. Levi Brown, a double in this league. You look at 2008, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. He came out with a bang. And if he would be willing to tackle, maybe this guy would be a standout corner in this league. But his lack of wanting to tackle and his inconsistent play at times leads me to make him a double. Solid double in the gap. He jogs around the bases, gets to second. Stand-up double for Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. You look at 2009, Chris Beanie Wells. Single. I'm not going to go into Beanie Well bashing, but the injuries have took its toll on his career. And to me, he's always seemed like he was supposed to have some sense of entitlement. Coming out of Ohio State, he was the man. And it just never materialized in the National Football League. It's a single for Chris Beanie Wells. Look at 2010. Dan Williams. Wasn't a fan of the pick then. Not a fan of the pick now. He's okay. He's not great. He's Dan Williams. He's a single. You look at 2011. Patrick Peterson. Loved the pick. Thought it was a great pick then. It's turning into a really good pick now. You just need a corner across from him. I think what sets him apart right now and allows him to be better than a double, and right now he resides at a triple, is because of the special teams added value you get from Patrick Peterson. Now look, he did absolutely nothing in 2012. But in his rookie campaign in 2011, the guy was as dynamic a returner in the league as we have. And I think in 2012 he pressed. He wanted every single return to be a home run. He wanted it to be a touchdown. And instead of him just going out and naturally letting it happen like he did in 2011, I think he pressed. That's why he didn't get any results. But I think he'll be back to his ways in 2013. And he got 7 interceptions in the 2012 campaign. So he's a really good corner now. It's a triple for Patrick Peterson. 2012. I don't like what I see out of Michael Floyd right now, the wide receiver out of Notre Dame. Here's a guy that is a big physical target for your quarterback, yet he's not making himself available to catch the football. He's not using his body to shield off defenders. He's not being a physically imposing receiver like Larry Fitzgerald is. Same frame. Larry Fitzgerald is a little more slender than Michael Floyd, yet he uses his body way better than Michael Floyd does. And this wasn't the case at Notre Dame. I don't know what's going on with Michael Floyd. He needs to get it in gear, though. It's only been one season, so I'm going to cut him a lot of slack, but he needs to step his game up. They drafted him to be the guy next to Larry Fitzgerald, allow Andre Roberts to kick into the slot where he belongs, and have this thing work out the way it's supposed to in Arizona. Right now, Michael Floyd is a single, but barely. He has to get it in gear. So that's the Arizona Cardinals draft history. And it's a solid double when you tally it all up. And right now, draft history in the past for the Arizona Cardinals in conjunction with the draft history of the number 7 overall selection says that it's supposed to be a solid double. And right now, I think the Arizona Cardinals have the best pick in the draft in terms of past history. 1 to 6 has not been better than 7 to this point. And so right now, the Cardinals are sitting at a very good spot in the draft. Now, I will say this. In the 2013 draft, the Arizona Cardinals want a tackle. They need a tackle. It's no secret. They couldn't hide it even if they wanted to. There are 3 exceptional tackles in this draft. After that, there's a slight drop-off, and no other tackle after those big 3 are worthy of a selection in the top 10. So if you're the Cardinals, you want either Luke Joeckel, Eric Fisher, or Lane Johnson. You could care less which one it is. You just want to get your hands on one of them. Now, you may like one more than the other, but beggars can't be choosers. This is the thing. You're sitting at 7 right now. You want a tackle. One of those tackles is going at 1 to Kansas City, whether it's Joeckel or Fisher. We don't know. But one of them is going to be off the board at 1. One of them is going to be off the board at 5. Whether it's Joeckel or Fisher to the Detroit Lions, doesn't matter. That's 2 tackles down. You're sitting at 7, and look, a tackle could fall to you at 7. But the Cleveland Browns are sitting at 6. They don't need a tackle. But guess what? Teams behind you, like the Miami Dolphins, the San Diego Chargers, do need a tackle. And don't think that they won't trade up to 6. Get the tackle right in front of you because they know that you want the tackle at 7. And take that tackle from right under your nose. So if you are the Arizona Cardinals, you have to have a backup contingency plan in place. I think you do. I think that the smart choice here is if you can't get the tackle, you get the guard. You get the next best thing. Because I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if you don't get the tackle. Levi Brown coming back from injury allows Bobby Massey to slide over to the right tackle position, which leaves you one glaring hole on that offensive line, and that's right guard with Pat McQuiston. He can't be your starting right guard. And so you get him out of there. You slide in either Jonathan Cooper out of North Carolina or Chance Warmack out of Alabama. You put one of them in, you plug them, you play them, and I think that you'll be better as a football team because of it. So either you get the tackle or you get the guard. Either way, that needs to be the selection for the Arizona Cardinals. Draft history says that you're supposed to draft a double at 7. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. If you draft either one of those tackles or one of those guards, I feel like the Arizona Cardinals cannot miss at 7. And that's going to do it for the Arizona Cardinals in the draft game.